So, good evening. In another language as our usual, German, because we have a special guest tonight. I'm sitting here with Andy Law, which most of you will probably know for doing freelance artist work for Call of Cthulhu, lately Critical Role, and formerly also Warhammer for a lot of work with GW. Also the owner of the Lawhammer YouTube channel.
Yep, indeed. It's not the only one I own. There's a couple out there.
So yeah, thank you for taking a few short minutes here at DreieichCon to do this little interview.
Not a problem at all.
So, as a born and bred Scotsman,
yes,
the most important thing first: Ale or single malt, and why single malt?
Neither.
Oh,
yeah. I don't like whiskey.
Oh,
okay, yeah. My father adores it, and he drank it a lot when I was young.
Yeah.
And I got turned off it completely. I am a heathen. I like Jack Daniels.
Bourbon.
Yeah. Take that.
I expected a lot of answers, but that one was most certainly not amongst it.
It is a point of much annoyance amongst many of my friends. But
yeah,
I like bourbon.
I bet. And even putting it together with cola or something like that. Or
I'm a Jack Daniels and Diet Coke because I'm diabetic, so I have to be careful.
Okay, yeah, that's perfectly fair. So most of you, especially our cameraman who voted to do this interview because he is a pure bad Warhammer fan. How did you start with Warhammer? How did you come to work with GW?
Okay, so this is a long story. I'll try to keep it short.
Yeah.
I started as a kid, and my parents introduced me to gaming when I was very young, 8 years old, and I was already role-playing. And by the time I was 10, the closest thing that I could find to the games that my parents had introduced me to was from local Games Workshop equivalents. I had an art store that sold all Games Workshop games. So I bought them all. And I do mean I bought them all. I not only bought every game that they had, I then ran and played every game they had. By the time I was 12, I had decided I was going to work for Games Workshop. I was
a young career decision.
Yeah, absolutely. By the time I was 15, I had quit school so that I could open my own club and shop and games development haven to gain experience for working for Games Workshop. By the time I was 18, in a tiny little village in the north of Scotland, where I lived in a lighthouse, I had managed to build a club with over 150 members that were gaming twice weekly, and big events, so big Warhammer games with maybe 40 people playing. Okay, 20 on each side. Big 40k games doing the same. Big games of the games that were popular at the time, like Epic and Man of War, that we were playing big ones. But I was also playing big role-playing games, playing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, for example. One of the adventures at that point was called Castle Drachenfeld, which was a big castle that you could raid. We raided it with 40 people, run with 3 games masters all at once. And by the time I was 18, and I approached my Games Workshop for a job, they couldn't believe I existed, because no 18-year-old comes in with 3 years experience in retail. It just doesn't happen.
Yes.
And I had that. Cut a long story short, I ended up working for them. I ended up quitting. I ended up working for them again. I ended up quitting. I ended up freelancing. I ended up running all of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay at one point. I freelanced. I ran it. I've done pretty much everything Warhammer-wise. Nowadays, on the Warhammer side, I still stream Lawhammer, as you mentioned, which is an actual play every single week for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and it's crazy. No other way of putting it. We go wild. So that's Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I also do Lore Beards, which is a lore-facing channel about Warhammer and now 40k. We just hired Ross Watson. Hired doesn't seem like the right word for Ross. Ross created all of the 40k RPGs, pretty much all of them, bar the most recent one. And he's coming in to be the lore master on the 40k games.
Oh, nice.
Okay, and we've paired him up with Alexis, who's a 40k streamer, and she knows so much about 40k. The pair of them are going to be discussing 40k lore, while I and another chap called Ryan do all the Warhammer lore. So we do that channel. And also inside the Rookery, where we just discuss with people across the gaming sphere about gaming.
Yeah.
And I make games.
Yeah, Dark Deeds.
Dark Deeds. Yeah, this one was made with Mark Evans and Andy Chambers, who, if you know any Warhammer, you immediately go, oh, them. Andy Chambers was responsible for much of the 90s Warhammer output. Mark Gibbons was responsible for much of the 90s art output. And that's the combo of rules and art in one. I wrote the rules for this particular edition of it. And Mark and I have worked super hard to bring this one together. You can order it right now from modifius.co.uk.
We'll put a link in the description.
Ah, you rock. You can also, if you happen to have any US viewers, you can grab it from the US equivalent as well. So
yeah.
You can do
Nice.
that too.
Nice. Is there still time to play privately just for fun?
Yes, and I do.
Yes.
I game all the time. Whilst I game online, and it takes up actually less of my time than I expected, because I'm a perennial GM. I'm always gaming. So thus, I don't need to do a lot of prep anymore. I can just turn up on the day, do it, which means it's really only an evening plus whatever rules that I require. Because unlike most GMs, I'm also rewriting and writing rules all the time. I've rewritten every career in the game, for example, in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which, if you don't know Warhammer, doesn't sound like much.
But it is a lot.
It's a lot. I've
lot.
rewritten them all, and many of those have gone up online, so you can just get them for free if you want to use them yourself. I've done maps for it. I've done entire war games that work within the Warhammer rule set that you can just play at the tabletop if you wish to do so, and pop that all up for free too.
That treasure trove of experience.
Yeah, that's on. It's on our Patreon, but the Patreon gives everything pretty much for free. The Patreon's only has the Patreon wall for stuff about the show that's behind the scenes.
Yeah, nice.
So we give all the rules for free because why not?
What was the most complicated or most labor-intensive project you worked on?
Oh, that's a toughie. There's mostly maps for this, because maps often hold a lot of work you might not realize. It's not just the drawing of it, it's finding all of the locations and making sure those locations, which might be written across 15 books, are there. So the very first Freeport map I did for Chris Primus, who's also at the con, Chris is lovely. The first map I did for Chris involved me reading every Freeport book that had been read up to that point, and then mapping it all. The map that they had already was wrong, so redoing the map and rejigging it so all of the locations that had been mentioned in all the other books, even the ones that weren't needed, were on the map. And it was surprisingly lengthy in terms of the amount of work involved, because nobody had collated all of it before, and I did. If we flip that over to another one that was really huge map-wise, I'd probably go for a map for a Kickstarter called Asunder. And that was one of the old, I think, Geek and Sundry producers who did that. His world, the map that I made for it was huge. I mean, I'm spreading my arms wider and wider and wider when I think of how big the core map was for it. And you could zoom in further and further and further. It's huge. And it's just so much work. And a map that I would normally have said, oh, I can do that in about a month. It took about 5 months to finish.
5 months on a single project.
Yeah, in a single one. But I was doing other projects around it.
Okay.
Because I needed to take a breather. But the deadline was 6 months. So I was actually turning it over early. But nevertheless, it was huge.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
In your career, if you look back, take a hindsight at the whole of it, is there a moment that didn't feel like a big deal at the time, but in hindsight just changed everything?
Yeah. And in fact, already been mentioned, the Freeport map. So it's not a big map. It's a poster map. So it's designed to go at the back of the book and unfold out to about the equivalent of 4 pages of size. And it's for not the most well-known setting, Freeport, a pirate setting for D&D.
Yeah.
One of the very first ever, in fact, pretty much the first ever open game licensed setting. So it got a lot of publicity at the beginning, and then it just became one of those settings that existed. By the time I was involved, it wasn't that huge. And you would think, yeah, that's a map that you did, and you move on from. And it pretty much for me was. It was a lot of work because there was a lot to put into it, but it wasn't one that I thought would be in any way consequential. But it was the first map that I did that won awards. And when those awards came in, I was then being asked by everyone to do maps. Everyone. I just got email after email. which is how I ended
More
up
than
working.
you could answer, yeah.
Yeah, it's why I ended up working, say, for example, Critical Role, or I
Mm-hmm.
found myself working over on, say, Titan's Grave with Will Wheaton, where I was just working on projects that kind of came out of the blue, and it was all because of working with Chris at Green Marine, and I love him for it.
Yeah, nice.
He's the best.
Is there a race or a region in Warhammer that is more complicated or even most complicated to illustrate? Something that sticks out?
I'm going to take this from a mapping standpoint, because illustration, they all have their own little foibles, and I could pretty much name any of them. But when it comes to mapping, some are enormously more difficult. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to call out in particular the dwarfs.
Okay.
Now, that might not be something that you go, oh, but surely you can. And then you suddenly think of what a dwarf hold looks like. Mm-hmm. And you try to imagine, do I do it as a cutaway? Do I do it as a top plan? Oh, wait a minute, there's 15 levels.
Isometric.
Okay, so do I do it isometric? But if I do it isometric, most of it's going to be hidden. And if there's 15... but if I make it the size that it is, it'll be tiny in the book. Mm. It's a nightmare.
Do I do 15 maps for 15 levels?
Yeah. And then your book, it's a book of maps. It's not a book about dwarfs. And I've had to do dwarf holds multiple times. And every single time I've said, do you realize that you've commissioned a nightmare? And if you haven't, let's have a discussion as to how you want to resolve it. Mm. Because there's not a correct answer. There's just, what do you want? Do I want to just do a cutaway from the side? So you go, that's level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a nice little pillar. Or do I want to do an isometric, which means lots of detail will be obscured if you want it all depicted? Do I do bits cut away from an isometric, like a mountain at the side with bits carved out of it, where you can see onto the inside? Now, all of those make you go, yeah, I want that, until you look at their sketch maps and you realize that if you do that, 3/4 of the information is gone, because there's no space to put it within the isometric. No matter how you twist it, you can't get it all in. And I go, it's your choice. And normally most people go for one of two choices. One is the pillar, cut from the side. That's what Critical Role went with for Craghammer, for example. Yeah. They just did it as a side cutout. Or alternatively, they go for multiple plans. But that ends up looking quite bitty. So maybe not. Yeah. There's also the idea of just zooming right out and just doing lots of little passages through big rooms and not worrying too much about the depth. It's not the best route to do it. I'm fixing it, but really hard to do.
If you get these projects, do the guys just send you the info and he knows what he's doing? He'll probably come up with a reasonable thing.
Yes, and I'm not afraid, because I've been doing this for so long, to ask questions. I'm not afraid to say what they're asking for is impossible or difficult or hard. And I never say I can't do it. What I say is, what you've asked for is this. Is that really what you want? Is it actually this? Some people, though, don't give a great deal of notes. For example, when I was doing the maps for Titan's Grave for Will Wheaton, his notes were, and I quote, "Go wild." That was it. Go wild.
That's not a lot of guidelines on project.
It's not. My first thought was, well, if I've got no guidelines, I'm going to make guidelines. So I made it an island, because that immediately provided form, shape, and gave me something I could work with. Yeah. And I then built upon that. But their entire first maps for that were just made up by me. There's not a detail on there that they had any input to. I just made it all up, gave it to them, and said, "You okay with that?" And they went, "Yes." I was like, "Oh, you don't want to change anything?" Okay. No.
Nice.
My daughter's name's on that.
You don't care.
Cool with that? Yes, it's a great name. Okay, cool. I mean, for example, the map of, what was the name of the town? The map that went for the city map that went along with Titan's Grave, it's literally got my house on it. So I took the plan of my house and I put that on. Because there was no guidelines.
Hiding these little details.
Yeah, little Easter eggs. It keeps you sane when you're doing a very big map, which they were both poster maps. So yeah. So there you go.
Last one.
Oh, easy.
What is a question you have always wanted to answer, but nobody has asked you?
It's a classic. I have asked almost that exact question to multiple people.
Oh, yeah.
Because I podcast for Inside the Rookery every week. And that question has come up more than once. And it's been asked to me in various guises down through time. And I've come up with different answers, which means that I kind of don't have any anymore because people have thrown some really random stuff. So I'm just going to be a shill and say, Why hasn't all your audience bought Dart Deeds? I can't believe I
Fair
did
enough.
that.
Fair enough.
That's a terrible answer.
No, it's perfectly fine.
They should all buy Dart Deeds. It's a great game. It's almost Terry Pratchett-esque in its humor. About malicious minions all backstabbing each other in an attempt to
I like that.
gain the favor of their patron. And it's
a classic.
It's proper silly. It's proper fun. And the artwork in it is absolutely gorgeous by the same guy who concepted all of World of Warcraft. He's our artist.
Nice.
He's the best.
Nice.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
More people should ask about Dart Deeds.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Just for being here, even at DreieichCon, it's also a lot of travel for you.
Yeah, it's been a really good one. It's nice here. I really like it. It's a beautiful con. More people should come.
So nice. Thank you for being here. Have a nice evening.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.